I've only been at the office a couple of years, so this is the first time that I've ever been at a kickoff meeting. When I came into the office at the Department of Public Safety Grant Administration Office, I came in at a fortunate time where I was handed a needs assessment. The state had already done an assessment of all of the victims programs in the state of Rhode Island, and it found that we were doing a good job with sexual assault, domestic violence, human trafficking. We were already spending a lot of money on these programs, but there were significant gaps in underserved and unserved populations. And this grant, when Omar kind of asked me to say a couple of words, I wasn't sure what I could say that would be any different than what he would say. But I did want to talk about the money a little bit, because I think it's important to understand that, and that is the role that I play, that our office plays in the program. So the Victim of Crime Act was passed through Congress in 1984 and was amended in 1988. It established the Victim Assistance Fund and the Victim Compensation Fund. So, and what it does is it creates this fund from money. It's financed by penalties and fines that are assessed in the federal courts by the United States Attorney's Office in federal court. So the money that's collected there goes into this fund. It's not tax money. A lot of times people think if it's coming from the federal government, it's tax money. This is money that's been collected from people who are convicted of crimes in federal courts. It's their restitution. And so it is dedicated to helping to, like I said, there are 4 primary areas: domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse, human trafficking. But really, it's supposed to be focused on enhancing programs that already exist, organizations that are already out there who have now found a need inside their organization that's not being met. And I think that's where the Refugee Dream Center comes in. Because with all of these other grants, we're funding organizations, and the referrals come from law enforcement, or they come from the emergency room, and they're from immediate emergency problems, not underlying trauma and people that, issues that happened a long time ago but are still crimes that have been committed. Crimes that affected people before they came into this country, may be very well why they are in this country now. So it's meant to reach out to all of those folks. Here in Rhode Island, this grant is administered by our office at the Department of Public Safety. It's attached to the state police. I actually report to a colonel, although I'm not a police officer myself, by any means, but I do report to the state police. And we have a policy board. That policy board consists of judges and attorneys and service providers and members from corrections, from prisons, and the Attorney General's office, and several other partners that sit around and organize how this money is spent. And we have a victims advisory board, 4 or 5 volunteers that help us read the applications that come in from this program. And when I was handed the needs assessment back in 2017, I also had a giant influx of money. Some federal court fines that had been assessed in previous years, like against Volkswagen for lying about diesel emissions, and against Google for lying about how they do their advertising. All of these large fines resulted in a huge increase in the amount of money that was coming into the program. So where 4 or 5 years ago this committee was talking about what to do with $1 or $2 million, I actually had about $14 million in one shot that we looked to release. So we went out into a lot of our core programs and funded them for 2 years, knowing that the next year we would still receive a large sum of money and we could go out after underserved populations. And so here we are, working with Omar and reaching out to these organizations. We directly said, hey, we're looking for applications, and we talked to them. And we heard from Omar in another program last year and said, maybe it's not a fit over here, or maybe it works over here, because we have this money to go out and try new things and try new approaches instead of sort of our ordinary thing, where the grassroots approach is very attractive, where you're going to meet people where they are. It's not your traditional access point. You're going to find people in their homes right where they are, their neighbors, and work with them, because that's what's going to work. And later on, if we're ready, we can go to those bigger services. If you need a doctor or a clinician who comes from one of our other grant-funded programs, when you're ready, we can go there. We can get to that point. But in the meantime, we have to get, meet people where they are and get used to things, helping them in their own language, in culturally specific terms. I think that's very important. There's a lot of different cultures around, and it doesn't always work. Cultures, you have to approach them where they are. Not everything works the way. We know that very well here in America because there's so many different cultures. So there's a couple of notes here. So lastly, I think I just want to thank not only the advisory committee, who I'm here representing, the policy board and the Victims Assistance Advisory Committee, the other grant managers in my office, but I really want to thank Omar and the staff at the Refugee Dream Center for taking a chance on this, for kind of looking at our RFP when it came out and realizing that our programs can work together, that we can find a way to get out and help more people and do good things with this money and start new programs that are cost effective, that will be sustainable, that's not very expensive, that we know we can work by working with volunteers and organizing volunteers and using the money to train folks to go out and help other people is a great model. So again, I just want to thank Omar and the Dream Center and everyone else who's here, all of the other partners, the folks in this room who are going to go out and do this program. They're going to help us implement this program, so thank you, and I wish you great success in everything.